Hello, and thank you for joining us on today's episode of BlockSentry Global Insights. My name is Desmond West, CEO of BlockSentry. As many of you know, BlockSentry is a crypto tax software company, and our solution allows users to accurately calculate their gains and losses from trading crypto. And as we were preparing to launch our second generation offering, we noticed that while the industry has certainly evolved over the last couple of years, including the proliferation of lots of different crypto-focused media content, we didn't see any platforms that were dedicated towards the important topic of crypto taxation. So we decided to launch BlockSentry Global Insights to be that platform. In the coming weeks, you're going to hear from experts based here in the United States, as well as Canada, the first two jurisdictions of our offering. And in the next couple of months, you're going to hear from experts based in the United Kingdom, South Africa, Australia, and India, the next four jurisdictions on our product development roadmap. And in the second half of this year, you can expect to hear from experts based in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. On today's episode, you'll hear from Lorenzo Abbatiello, one of the partners of Origins Group. He's based in Miami, Florida. And our topics include his firm, his clients, and the impact of IRS guidance and enforcement activity on his clients and firm. And his clients consist primarily of large individual traders. Thank you again for joining us, and enjoy. Hello, Lorenzo. How are you today?
Good morning. How's it going, Desmond?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us. So I thought we'd get started by just asking you to introduce yourself and your firm.
For sure. So I'm Lorenzo Abbatiello, partner at Origins Group. And we're an accounting firm predominantly based on clients who have some exposure to crypto. I handle a lot more on the individual side. Partner Josh is a lot more on the corporate. Together, we tag team a lot of just planning. That's one of the really core focuses of the firm. It's handling clients who need that planning, right? And a lot of individuals in the crypto space have made money or in complicated situations. And that's where we've hung our hat, right? And so we do individuals, we do businesses, we do funds that have exposure to crypto. And our typical client generally isn't one that just buys some Bitcoin and holds it. Usually someone who's just handles a lot of DeFi, a lot of NFT work, and businesses that have or are incorporating crypto into like just their mix. And that's typically most of the clients that we work with are pretty much in that arena.
Fantastic. So Josh handles more of the corporate, you more of the individual side. On the corporate side, can you give us a high level sense of the profile of those clients? Are we talking hedge funds or sort of family offices, or sort of who are the enterprise clients that your partner Josh works with primarily?
For sure. So a lot of them are startups, hedge funds, VC firms. So just, a lot of funds. We have a bunch of people who have funds that are investing in crypto, or part of their investments are in crypto. Some of the startups world, we have one that's actually is in working with one of the only licenses to give just financial advice. They've been doing this for a while now in the crypto space, almost like a robo advisor for crypto. We have schools that teach crypto, that do pay all their payments in crypto, and obviously NFT projects, companies that convert NFT to just so you can get NFTs with cash. So like just payment processing companies in the space. But I would say on the majority side, it's either a startup or really a fund.
Okay, fantastic. And on your side of the house, on the individual side, what's the typical profile of your individual clients? Are these sort of individual casual traders? Or are these the retired Wall Street guys who've traded on their own account? Like, who are your individual clients typically?
I feel like in the crypto space, you get an interesting clientele, right? They're all for the most part pretty interesting people, and so we'll start with that more so if they're a professional trader or just an individual. But definitely a mix. I mean, it's interesting where you see some of these individuals that get into crypto. I actually get surprised sometimes because like it's a complex industry and to navigate all this is pretty. You got to know what you're doing, and sometimes it's I don't know how they even got into it. Sometimes they can't even open up a Zoom, but so it can be as simple as that, and then all the way to a developer that has put together a whole trading bot and put it all together themselves they've done algorithmic trading in their just work life prior, and now they're doing this. So it literally ranges from, I can't open up a Zoom to, I'm an Ivy League graduate creating a trading bot. So it's pretty wide. It's a wide net, but for the most part, they're doing something in crypto that they're in need of a professional, versus I have the ability to just attach my Coinbase into a software, or I've made a few trades and I can do it manually. So it's generally away from that. If they are in need of a professional to help organize all this stuff, those are generally my clients.
Got it. Okay. And that particular need for a professional, would you say that's driven mostly by the volume that they're doing, or the level of sophistication that they're doing in terms of the type of trading they're involved in, or both?
Both. I mean, this right here is a key with 3 million trades. I mean, we're a client at 3 million trades. So that's a decent amount compared to just the average person. And I think anything over 25,000 starts to get high. And then a lot of the clients, they get involved into interesting projects. Like, for example, they have to have a wallet and they send that over to some exchange or some offshore trading program, or they're doing some DeFi program that pays them out, X% every single month, or, they get a rebasing coin, or they're doing liquidity pools, or so they're just getting involved in some sort of investment opportunity that isn't just the straightforward spot trading, or I'm going to buy and hold. So there's a lot of that stuff out there. I mean, I feel like every day there's something new coming out that's just making money, or it's just the project people are getting interested about. So, and they all have really, I don't want to say they're all different rules, but they all have specific rules to the project that people are, and that's why they join them.
Okay, fantastic.
To navigate.
And yes, fantastic. And would you say that most of these clients, both on the enterprise side, individual side, are based here in the U.S., or do you have any international, non-U.S. based clients?
Yeah, we have both. I would say majority are in U.S., but we definitely have clients that we do the books for. We only do taxes here in the U.S., so I'm not doing taxes in Canada or in the EU or in Dubai, but I do a lot of books for clientele outside the United States, because really the books are the books. If you buy something, you sell something, and then a lot of so software's out there now. They can provide the forms for the specific jurisdictions, which is pretty cool, right? So right. As long as I can do the books, they're in good shape. So we do that for international clients, but not so much their tax filings.
Understood. And last sort of background question, how has your business sort of grown or evolved in the last 2 or 3 years? Meaning, are you seeing more individual or more corporate clients who need tax preparation services because increased enforcement? Or are you seeing the same number of clients, but a lot more transaction volume because, as you said, people are writing programs for bots and trading a lot more than they were 3 or 4 years ago? Or is it some combination of both?
Man, so the last 2-3 years have been insane. I started doing crypto calcs in 2016. One of my buddies came to me, had a bunch of Bitcoin offshore. He was getting involved in this, he made money, gotten early. And reporting was really vague. It just, no one knew what to do. I lived in New York at the time. He's calling all these big firms in the area, and no one knew anything about crypto. He comes to me, he's like, Lorenzo, you've been doing my taxes. I want to work with you, but this is something I'm doing, and I really think that you should learn this, because I just see a huge opportunity. He's like, no one knows what to do. I'm calling all these big firms, and no one knows what to do. So if they don't know, then who knows? So figure it out and help me, because I have a group of friends who are in the same situation as me. It's part of some crypto group in New York. So I did one, I did two, he sent it to his friends, I did theirs, and starts going on, and then 2018 came. I really started my business in 2018. Put my office in a financial services firm, so I started doing some planning. And then now you're talking like I started doing some work in Puerto Rico. A couple of my clients moved down to Puerto Rico for that. So I started getting into really tax strategy. So now you're talking 2-3 years ago. Now you're talking like around 2020, and crypto started becoming more mainstream. I fortunately started to string together a group of experiences in the accounting space that really was geared towards helping these people out. I created a project in 2019, 2020. So one of my clients was a developer, so I was in part of creating that actual cryptocurrency. So I learned the development side of it. I had a really difficult crypto calculation situation myself. So for me to even do my own, I started learning, like, wow, this is, people need this. Like, and I'm not the only one. All of a sudden, it started getting more mainstream. So that's when I doubled down on the industry more. And I said, okay, I'm not going to try to make money in it. I'm going to try to make money around it. And I shifted the practice. I already had a lot of good connections because we created the crypto project, so I knew some influencers, and I've been to the conferences. I had some friends in the space, so that's when I doubled down and just started focusing almost entirely on crypto. And now, fast forward a little bit more, people made money. The bull run, people did really, really well, and that's when I was getting into more corporate. Because all of a sudden you start seeing more corporate users, and most of my experience was more so in individuals. Not that I'm not good at the corporate side, but it's just not, I won't say my day to day, or was my day to day. And so I started making some phone calls, and that's when I met my partner Josh today. He's like, I just started Googling like crypto CPA, and I called all of them. He's the only one who answered. He got back to me, and we started sending business back and forth to each other. And all of a sudden, we just one here, one there, another one. We kept going. And it's just like, why don't we just like merge? And so we ended up coming together, and we've been together for almost 2 years now. So it's been a good little run. I got to say, it's been a lot of fun. Working with celebrities, working with people in the music industry, athletes, people in the White House. Crypto regulators. Like it's been a cool run. A lot of fun.
No, fantastic. Well, speaking of sort of how things have evolved, I thought we'd start the topical part of the interview with just starting with the IRS. Of course, we're focused here in the U.S., as you mentioned. So this topic episode will be focused on the U.S. for the most part. So let's start with IRS guidance. As we all know, the IRS has tried to become more transparent with respect to issuing guidance around how crypto will be treated for taxation. So how has that increased level of clarity, if you will, at least a relative clarity, impacted your clients and your business over the last, say, 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, for sure. I classified it in 3 different categories. You have the black and white, which is, these are the rules. There's the gray, which, is a little bit where it's like you're pushing and you kind of know you're pushing. And then there's the clear, and that's the scariest part. And that's where a lot of things fall into this category. I feel like it's becoming less and less because you're starting to see standards. And at the end of the day, you can compare a lot of these rules to previous rules, and you can understand what kind of stance the IRS is going to take. So as much as it's been such this like mystery box, like, oh, what are we going to do? What's this? Like, there's no regulation. I mean, there is. So, I mean, could it be better? Absolutely. But there is, and there's some guidance. Like, you know when you're doing something right, you know when you're doing something wrong, so for the most part. But if you want to go some monumental, I mean, 2014 was obviously just their biggest, their real clear, they said crypto's property, which, again, put it into this weird gray clear area because it's like, okay, what's property? We're trading this. It feels like security. It smells like security. It looks like security. You're calling it property. And the SEC doesn't have full clearance to just say what they want to say because it's been messy. And honestly, as much as that makes me or our jobs as in a CPA almost, it's made it made it a premium. That's why that's done well for me. I almost don't like it because I want people to feel comfortable about this stuff, and it just has continued to stay clear for, I feel like, way too long. And I think it's that rope is getting shorter. I think we're getting to the point now where they're going to start making some very clear, defined rules. And just to give you an idea, what one of the ones of regulation that's a little bit, people don't really talk about too much is, prior to 2018, if you're doing swaps with Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, technically, because there was very little liquidity in the market at that point, they're not counting those as swap where they're taxable events. I mean, another one that's really unclear is your accounting method, LIFO, FIFO, HIFO. Which one are you using? I think it's crazy that you don't put that on a tax return. And then the tax software allow a retail user to just flip in between with a click of a button, and to have that power to do that and not have to report it on your tax return. But if you get audited and you're not consistent, they're going to come back and they want to see consistency. That's so unclear. And it's actually, I find it to be unfair that a retail user is allowed to have so much power to screw things up. It blows my mind, right? It blows my mind that we don't have that clear rule. So another part of just guidance that I've been seeing, I mean, the staking case, staking is a very much so of a gray area. What is it? If it comes from a centralized exchange, you're getting a 1099 for it. But if you're doing staking on some DeFi platform, it's subjective, and then you lose. Then the thing shuts down and you lose everything. But when you put it into a software, it's counting as income the whole entire time. So it's, what is the right and the wrong? So that's definitely something that needs to be a little bit more defined. Like, right, we want to know what the stance is. I mean, they came out with guidance on hard forks, which that was good. So you had a hard fork guidance, like that's clear. It's a taxable event when something switches over, right? But I really truly feel in the near future we're going to see something really strong.
Sounds good. So it sounds like you're saying the net of it has been a net positive impact on the guidance, but they haven't gone far enough. Or a follow-up question actually I had planned to speak about was, how well do you think, in fairness to IRS, we know they're a big organization and they're government and they kind of move slow, but in your honest assessment, how well has the IRS kept up with the changes that are happening? Do you feel like the lack of clear guidance is just a function of them not sort of knowing crypto as well as they should? Or is it that they're struggling to keep up with the rapid evolution of the crypto industry itself? Or some combination of both?
I think I've had several conversations with the IRS about crypto. I've done a couple different audits at this point. And then I've also been to events where I've dealt with or met with, spoken with IRS agents that are involved in the crypto space. And every time I've worked with one, I've been more impressed, or I've been more and more impressed. Then obviously not everyone knows everything. So when you deal with someone who doesn't know about it, you can clearly see just the knowledge is just not there in the space. But the ones in the audits that I've been with, they've had some sort of degree of just understanding, some more than others. But it's getting better. It's getting better. And I wouldn't be surprised if in the next year or two that they know what they're doing. The IRS is interesting in the fact that I feel like it's archaic in many ways. Their technology. So the fact that they're getting into this space and they have to audit it, it's kind of funny that they're going to definitely need some upgrades on their side. And they're working with certain programs that allow for that. So I think that they've subcontracted people to be that arm for them. Like I said, I'm doing an audit right now. They definitely didn't calculate things the way that I think it needs to be calculated. So we're going and recalculating that, and we're working together, and the communication's there. It's very strong. It's very back and forth. It's not like, it's not enforcing. It doesn't feel like it's an enforcement. It feels like let's work together to figure this out. So, and that, I think if they're, especially it being so new, I think that's the approach, and I'm okay with that.
Great. And that was actually going to be another one of my questions, which was shifting to the enforcement impact. So shortly after a lot of their regulatory guidance was issued, it seems as though they quickly followed that up with enforcement. So people did almost have a chance to digest the guidance before they came back with retroactive enforcement, right?
Yeah.
So what has the impact of the enforcement activity and the increase in enforcement activity had on you and your clients?
I mean, I haven't seen much enforcement personally. I haven't seen them coming down and knocking people, it's not like I have 100 letters from clients that they're getting audited. I have 2. And I didn't even do those two calculations. So, I could see it happening. I think us putting that, I think it's honestly, call me crazy here, but I think that by putting yes and no of do you trade cryptocurrency, you're just going to put yes, you're going to go into a pile, and from there, they're just going to pick people. Honestly, I don't see it. And if you're going to have a big amount, maybe you probably have a higher chance of getting more. I don't think it's going to be that fancy. Obviously, you have, chain analysis and companies such as that can go and give risk scores on wallets. Like, we're going to be contracted with chain analysis where we're going to be able to go and run and use the same tools that the governments are going to be using to see if you're interacting with, a hot wallet of some sorts, or you've dealt in some sort of transactions that give you a higher risk score than the average person. That can reflect to an audit for sure. So I think it's soon to see about enforcement. I haven't seen much, but like I said, I think time's going to tell. What it has done, I feel like people have this little neurotic feeling. There's a lot of anxiety when I speak to a client on being audited. They just want nothing to do with it. So they're willing to go that extra step to make sure things are right. So if any effect has happened, it's, they have been that heavy hand where people do have that anxiety and that feeling on the individual level, on the corporate level, that people are like, I need to do this right. Like, I don't even want to deal with this if this ever comes.
Right. And that's one of the things that I'm interested in seeing, and you kind of touched on it, which is the posture of an enforcement action or an audit. Historically, for traditional sort of tax preparation work where the rules are clear and very, very old, it's almost as if ignorance of the law is no excuse. So we audit you, you file something incorrectly, there's a fine or a penalty because you knew or should have known what the rules were. Here, because there's so many gray areas or the regulations are lagging the development industry, I'm curious to see whether or not an audit reveals some discrepancy that is their fault or some lack of clarity. And therefore, yes, you would pay the tax that you otherwise would have owed had you filed it, quote, correctly. But there's no penalty per se for tax evasion and things like that, because people are trying their best to follow the rules, which are so unclear and so rapidly changing that I'm curious as to know, or curious to see how the IRS's posture takes place in these coming years when they ramp up the level of enforcement, which we all kind of expect them to do.
Well, I think it all depends on how you approach an audit, how you approach that situation. If you're coming in and you've tried your best, then I think you're gonna get the same level of respect back, and that's what's happening with me, with my conversations with the IRS. I'm not going there trying to hide. I'm trying to make sense of what happened. And what we do here as a firm is any changes that we make, we document it. Documentation is important. The more you have to support your case in any situation, whether you're getting an audit, whether you have a lawsuit, whether you're in an argument, whether you're doing negotiation, the more you have to support your stance, the taller you can stand on it, right? You have confidence of what you're presenting. So that's it, right? Is if you to do your best. What I don't want to say I didn't like, I think that's the wrong word. What I find a little unfair is the IRS's ability to subpoena and exchange and get information. If something closes down or you're not unable to get a CSV for something, if they're US based, obviously they have the ability to get that information. So that's one unfair advantage that I find, that if you can have access to it in some shape or form, you should give the access to the people. So that's one thing I think that they'll give people the opportunity to say, okay, here's the information. If you want to make sense of it, you can. But this is our side of the story. This is what we think this looks like.
So if I can clarify that quickly, what you're saying is I'm a tax filer. I submitted my tax return based on information that I had. The IRS chooses to audit me. They can subpoena, exchange information, wallet information to conduct an audit. They come up with a different calculation for my tax liability and they audit me. You're saying they have access to information that they may not give to me as the filer to defend myself because they want me to do it on my own. Is that what you're saying? Or are they not sharing that information with the filer, or?
No, they are. So I got all that information. I don't know if they're sharing it specifically with the filer, if maybe there's some rules specifically give it not to them. But for me as the CPA, they gave me the information that they got. That I
see. Okay.
My review of all of this based off of what they have.
I see. Okay. Yeah. And that takes me to the question of data accuracy, and particularly the evolution of data accuracy over the last, again, 2 or 3 years. Are you seeing that both your filers, and in this case, your audit case, the IRS, has more accurate information than was previously available because APIs are more prevalent, or is it still sort of CSV driven, which leads to some discrepancies in the data, which also gives rise to discrepancies in the file? Or what are you seeing in terms of data accuracy and the changes in that over the last 2 or 3 years?
I mean, in any of the softwares that I've used in comparison to the past, I feel like it's gotten better. So I think we're moving towards a better direction, a good direction. And as long as we're moving in that direction, I'm okay. I haven't seen anything that's blown my mind as of late. So that's a good thing.
Okay, great. And then finally, special challenges. You've touched on this a little bit, but any particular, you and your colleagues in sort of this large individual trader space, what are some of the particular challenges you're finding with providing tax preparation services, or in the one case, audit defense services? Any particular types of trades or any particular jurisdictions or in particular exchanges? Like, what are some of the special challenges that you're seeing, again, here in the last 2 or 3 filing cycles?
Yeah, I think I guess I'll go into 2. One would be offshore. You have a lot of offshore based projects that people are interacting with. And if anyone knows anything about offshore taxes, it's a complicated arena. You talk about 5471s, 5472s. I mean, these are complicated disclosure forms you need to put onto tax returns that if you can avoid them, avoid them at all costs. But if it's necessary, then it's necessary. So it's just kind of getting a little more clarity on understanding what technically is an offshore, when you would need those disclosures and when you would not. Obviously, if you have an entity if you created offshore, you're going to need that. But if you're going to go and interact with one of these wallets or interact with one of these exchanges or the money stored over there, do you need that FBAR? And I think the IRS has put some guidance to it. Like, for example, any of these exchanges that are offshore, let's say you're working on KuCoin. KuCoin's not based in the United States, but you don't require an FBAR for your KuCoin holdings. It's just they've put that out there that you don't need that. But there are some more really, that they're offshore type of situations where they're smaller projects, not some big exchange. And what do you do with that? If they're holding all that out there. Another situation where I would say is just the understanding the tokenomics of some of these projects and how it sinks in. You're burning half of the token, or it's not the right cost bases aren't coming in, but it was all done in some third-party app where you have to pay this tax, and it's not on the blockchain. It's done within the app. So the math is being done that you can't just extract. And it's like you just saw what goes out, then what comes in is just completely different than what's expected. So making sense of those transactions is very difficult and requires a lot of manual work. And that's probably the most time-consuming part of doing a crypto calculation is making sense of these just off color transactions. They're just not straightforward. There's fees and percentages and you're locking up money, and it's just there's every situation is different. So some clients do 100 different of these projects. So you have to do manual work for 100 different types of transactions, 100 different types of projects times the amount of transactions they have. So it can get challenging sometimes.
Understood. Okay. You said there were two types. That was one example. What was your second example?
I was saying something with interesting tokenomics and then the second one is when it's offshore.
I see.
Those are just two.
Okay.
I would say hurdles that we've had to get an understanding of.
Understood. And what is your process or technique to deal with those? What's the best way you guys are, at least today, are able to overcome those?
One of the projects that we've worked with, these clients have had to create offshore LLCs. So now they can choose so many jurisdictions to create this company. And what jurisdiction do you choose? What are the on taxes and off taxes of that jurisdiction? Are the laws in that jurisdiction going to change? What are the costs associated to doing? Because there's a cost offshore, there's a cost onshore. What added forms you want to do to stay compliant? What's the least amount of complexity that we can add to these people's returns with also staying compliant? These are questions that we've had to ask and get the answers to. And you're never getting a straight answer from some attorneys every once in a while. It's you go in and they only know rules in the United States. Then you got to go over to British Virgin Islands or Cayman Islands and get someone over there to understand what's happening over there. Or so you got to go to Belize and get understanding what's going on over there, or Dubai, right? So international tax law is something that I've actually spent a lot of time on this past year, and is a focus that I'd like to have going forward, because crypto is something that we've got a good understanding of. Not that you're always learning, obviously, but I foresee that international tax is going to be a big part of our practice in the coming years.
Fantastic. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we decided to do when we were going to launch BlockSentry Global Insights is to decidedly make it not promotional. We're not promoting our software on these interviews. We really want to have it more about a conversation and information for our listeners. Mm-hmm. But what you're touching on is exactly something that we're focused on here, which is international tax. We know that even if you're a U.S. resident trading, you're going to run into non-U.S. Issues because of just the global nature of crypto. So we're trying to build our platform to be as global as possible with as many jurisdictions as possible so that it has the most utility as possible for our users. And so what you touched on is a key pillar of how we're developing our software. Well, fantastic. Yes, we fully agree. And so thank you so much for your time today. I would say in conclusion, couple questions finally. Are you accepting any new clients at this time?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, definitely from the tax side, we take a very much sort of concierge approach. I mean, we're very hands-on. We don't have a huge firm. We're up to about 15 people. Maybe a little more if we start adding like some part-time stuff. But we're not the firm that does thousands of tax returns. We deal with pretty complicated stuff. We want to be hands-on with our clients. So I would say our niche in this is we're available. We do. Again, like I said, a lot of planning work. So it's not so much just, we're here to do your taxes, I'll talk to you next year. We're having conversations throughout the year. So I would say we're probably not the cheapest firm, but we're definitely not the most expensive by any means. I think we do a really good job. We understand the crypto, the planning, the taxes, the corporate. So it's something that's a little unique. So our clientele usually has unique situations. So if that's the type of arena that you play in, then we're here to help you. I mean, we're definitely accepting new people, but like I said, it's not what we've done is because I love hospitality. I want to help everyone. But unfortunately, we're only so limited in time. So what we've done is I created a course, a crypto tax course, where we can teach people what's our process? Like, how do we do this? So if you can't afford, a $10, $20, $25,000 retainer of some sorts, then for, $500, $1,000, you can get a course to learn this stuff. Like, I mean, it's the value is there, and you can get a little piece of what we do, and then go get your tax return done for a few $100. So that's pretty cool, right? So to have
excellent
access, but we're not necessarily maybe doing everything for you, but you can have an understanding of what we do.
Okay. I think that's a fantastic idea. I love it. So the fact that you are open for new business for select types of clients, why don't you please share how any viewers can get in contact with you to talk about potentially working with you?
For sure. So we're origensgroup.com. My personal brand is lorenzotax.com. On both of those, you can just click on the link to schedule a call. We have a free call with someone from the team if you're just looking to get some inquiries, or we have paid calls if you want to just book like half hour, an hour at a time with CPA or myself or Josh or whoever. And so there's a few ways that you can get started. So if you're looking for any sort of general inquiry, you can go to origensgroup.com, lorenzotax.com, and just schedule a little something.
Okay, fantastic. And then finally, what we thought we'd do is ask all of our guests to put on their Nostradamus hats and make some predictions, right? And just really one question would be, if you had to look into the future and see where cryptocurrency or digital assets would be, say, 3 years from now, not 5 or 10 or 15, only 3 years from now, where do you think it's going? And this is not a tax question per se. This is just the evolution of the industry itself. There's lots of bulls and bears on crypto, and is it a real value, and is it a scam? And Congress is debating it, and around the world, should we ban it? And so there's so much noise around the industry, as you of course well know. What is your best prediction of where the dust will have settled, say 3 years from today?
Yeah, I think you're going to see. I think you'll see Bitcoin continue to grow. I think you'll see real life applicability of blockchain into every day. The next wave is going to be physical uses of crypto or blockchain in some shape or capacity. I think you'll start to see that being embedded into everyday situations within the next 3 years. To what degree? In the conversations that I've had with, I would say like owners of projects and, pretty big ones too, like their predictions is roughly around 3 to 5 years where you'll start to really see like the value of what you can do here and board it into real life, just the scalability. It's like saying, because we're so advanced at this point, it's like saying, where you're working on dial-up, you want to have a 5G phone, right? We're at 5G right now because of just the way technology. So it just needs to catch up the speed, the ease of use. Like instead of going to 10 different sites to get something done, or, you got to move money in this wallet to that wallet. So I think you'll start to see that in the next 3 years where you start to see real life businesses applying some shape or form blockchain or crypto or NFTs to their actual business. And I think it's going to piggyback off of this whole AI run.
Excellent. Thank you. We're going to put all these answers in a time capsule, open back up in 3 years, rerun the tape, and see how far on or off people were.
Bitcoin going to be at.
Exactly.
The next few years, just looking at market cap. You just look at market cap. If it pulls a little bit of market cap. Oh, one thing in the next 5 years, I would love to see, in the next 3 to 5 years, I'd love to see wire transfers be completely turned around. I mean, it's ridiculous. Even like today, I'm trying to send a wire. I had to send money when I was in Italy here. It got blocked 3 times because they thought I was doing some sort of fraud, which I get that. That's good. But it was such a headache to move the money. I'm like, can this person just accept USDC? And that's today. That's not 3 years. That's today.
Yes. No. Once again, you're touching on some very key pillars of how we think about the industry here at BlockSentry. And we know that a big driver of the industry is remittances. And so how that plays into the evolution of the industry is going to be really, really key. There's all kinds of anti-money laundering and things like that to be concerned about. But the everyday sort of bigger than micropayments, but the everyday remittance of currencies around the world to support families and send money back home and things like that. That is a huge, huge part of the crypto industry, and why we're seeing different rates of adoption in different countries. And so we know that's a big driver of this, and we're trying to be at the forefront of that as it relates to how we think about our software. So we could not agree with you more. Well, great. Well, thank you so much for your time. I think it's been a great interview, and we'll certainly be able to post your contact information in post-production, and look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you. Thank you again.
Thanks.
Okay, bye.